The discovery. Silara had always been curious. As a scientist from the Zithran race, her job was to study different species across the galaxy. She had seen creatures of all shapes and sizes, from the massive lava beasts of Vornox to the tiny, glowing insects of Kelios 5. But nothing puzzled her more than humans. The Zithrans were a logical race. They chose their mates based on genetic compatibility, not emotions. Love, as humans called it, was a foreign concept to them. It was unnecessary, a distraction. Yet, humans valued it more than anything. They built their entire lives around it. They wrote songs, books, and movies about it. They fought wars and crossed galaxies in the name of love. Silara didn't understand it, but she wanted to. That was why she had come to Earth in secret. Disguised as a human, she had been studying them for months. She worked in a research lab, observing human interactions. She took notes on their conversations, their gestures, and their strange rituals. Hand-holding, kissing, hugging. It all seemed pointless. Yet, it made humans happy. One night, as she sat in her small Earth apartment, she accessed her research logs. She had recorded hundreds of hours of human behavior, yet she still couldn't make sense of their emotions. She sighed, frustrated. Why do humans need love? She muttered to herself. Her answer came in an unexpected way. A fateful encounter. Silara had met Captain Daniel Reeds before. He was a well-known space explorer, a decorated officer in the United Earth Fleet. A year ago, he had saved her life. During a research mission near a collapsing star, her shuttle had been damaged. She had been seconds away from being crushed by the star's gravity when Daniel's ship had appeared out of nowhere. He had risked his own life to pull her to safety. "Why did you save me?" she had asked him afterward. He had simply smiled, because that's what humans do. She never forgot those words. Now, months later, she found herself watching him again, this time from a distance. He sat in a small coffee shop, laughing with a woman. Silara observed carefully. The woman touched his arm when she spoke. He smiled at her in a way that was different from his usual expressions. There was warmth in his eyes. Silara's fingers tightened around her research tablet. Was this love? She had to know. A bold decision. Silara approached Daniel's table. He looked up, surprised. "Silara? Wow, I didn't expect to see you here." She sat across from him, ignoring the other woman, who frowned in confusion. "I need to talk to you," Silara said directly. Daniel blinked. Okay." The woman beside him shifted uncomfortably. "I should go," she said, standing up. Silara barely noticed. As soon as the woman left, she leaned forward. "I need your help," she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "With what?" Silara hesitated. She was not used to asking for help, but she had no choice. If she wanted answers, she needed a human to explain. "I want to understand human mating," she said bluntly. Daniel choked on his coffee. "You? What?" "Mating," Silara repeated. "Humans do not just reproduce. They form bonds. Emotional connections. I have observed it, but I do not understand it. You saved my life before, so I trust you. Will you help me understand?" Daniel wiped his mouth, coughing. "Silara, that's not really something you just..." He paused, shaking his head. "Are you serious?" "Completely." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, first of all, we don't call it mating. That makes it sound like we're animals. Then what is the correct term?" He hesitated. "Love, relationships, dating." "Dating?" Silara tilted her head. "Humans have a ritual before mating." Daniel groaned. "It's not just about mating. It's about emotions, feelings, connection. You don't just pick someone and..." He stopped himself and sighed. "You really don't get it, do you?" "No," she admitted. "That is why I need you to teach me." Daniel rubbed his face. This was going to be a long conversation, an unusual agreement. Over the next few minutes, Silera explained her research. She told Daniel that she had been studying human relationships, but could not understand the emotional aspect. Zithrans do not feel emotions the way humans do, she said. We select mates based on logic and genetics. We do not fall in love. But humans do. And I want to understand why. Daniel frowned. But why? Why does this matter to you? Silera hesitated. She didn't know how to explain it. All she knew was that something inside her had changed since she met him. Since she had started observing humans more closely, emotions she didn't recognize had begun creeping into her thoughts. Curiosity, fascination, longing. I do not know, she finally admitted. But I need to find out. Daniel sighed. And you think I can help you? Yes. He studied her for a moment, then leaned back. All right, he said. I'll teach you about love, but only if you promise not to treat it like an experiment. Silera hesitated. Then what should I treat it as? He smiled. An experience. She thought about that for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. As they shook hands, Silera felt something strange in her chest. It was a new sensation. Warm. Unfamiliar. She had no idea what it was. But she was about to find out. The experiment turns personal. Silera was not used to feeling uncertain. As a scientist, her world had always been structured, logical. Every question had an answer. Every problem had a solution. But now, for the first time in her life, she had encountered something she could not immediately understand. She had spent months studying human relationships, yet emotions remained an enigma. Love was not just a biological function. It was something deeper, something that influenced decisions, changed behaviors, and even altered lives. And now she had made a decision that was completely illogical. She had asked Captain Daniel Reeves to teach her about love. The first lesson. The next day, Silera waited for Daniel outside a small restaurant. She had spent hours reviewing human dating customs and had concluded that shared meals were a common bonding experience. If she was to learn about love, she needed to engage in human rituals. Daniel arrived right on time. He looked at her with a mixture of amusement and hesitation. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Yes," Silera said firmly. "I have studied human customs, and I understand that meals are an important part of dating." Daniel chuckled. "It's not just about eating. It's about spending time together, talking, getting to know each other." "I already know you," Silera said, tilting her head. "You are Captain Daniel Reeves, age 34, born on Earth in the Western Hemisphere. You have served in the United Earth Fleet for 11 years, received multiple commendations, and you saved my life during a mission near a collapsing star." Daniel blinked. "Okay. That's a little creepy when you say it like that." Silera frowned. "Is it incorrect?" "No. It's just that knowing facts about someone isn't the same as knowing them." He gestured toward the restaurant. "Come on. Let's eat. I'll show you what I mean." The meaning of small talk. Inside, the restaurant was warm and filled with the sound of human voices. Silera observed everything. The way people laughed, the way couples leaned toward each other, the way some even fed each other bites of food. Humans found pleasure in simple things. Daniel ordered something called pasta and a drink he called wine. Silera simply let him choose for her. As they waited for their meal, Daniel leaned back. "Okay, first lesson, small talk." Small talk. "It's a way humans connect before diving into serious topics," he explained. "Like, I don't just ask someone deep, emotional questions right away. I ask about their day, their hobbies, stuff like that." Silera considered this. "That seems inefficient." Daniel laughed. "Maybe, but it's important. It helps people feel comfortable." She thought for a moment, then attempted to participate. "Very well. I will small talk. Daniel, what is your favorite color?" He grinned. "Blue." Silera nodded. "And do you find this color emotionally significant?" Daniel chuckled. Not really. I just like the way it looks. She was about to ask more, but their food arrived. Lara observed as Daniel twirled the pasta around his fork and took a bite. She mimicked his actions, but as soon as she tasted it, her eyes widened. The flavors were complex. Not just nutrients, but pleasure. Daniel smirked. Good, right? Lara nodded slowly. Humans enjoy food beyond survival. Another example of emotion-based behavior. Exactly. She took another bite, trying to analyze the way it made her feel. Warm, satisfied, comforted. Was this why humans valued shared meals? Daniel watched her with amusement. You're overthinking it. She looked at him. I am studying it. Yeah, but sometimes you just have to feel things without analyzing them. Lara paused. Is that how love works? Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, love isn't something you study, it's something you experience. She absorbed this information, filing it away for further analysis. Unfamiliar feelings. As they walked out of the restaurant, Lara noticed something odd. She felt lighter. She had enjoyed herself. The conversation, the food, even Daniel's presence. It was pleasant. She frowned. This was unexpected. Daniel noticed her expression. What's wrong? She hesitated. I do not know. Then describe it. She thought carefully. I feel comfortable. Daniel smiled. That's good. It means you're enjoying the moment. Enjoying the moment. That was not something she had ever considered before. Her life had always been about the future, about results and conclusions. But for the first time, she was simply existing in the present. She glanced at Daniel. Was he the reason for this? A new kind of experiment. Over the next few days, Lara and Daniel continued their experiment. She accompanied him to various human activities, watching films, walking through parks, even something called dancing, which she found highly inefficient but strangely enjoyable. Each time, she recorded her observations. Observation 1. Human bonding activities are centered around shared experiences rather than logical discussions. Observation 2. Emotional responses to certain stimuli, such as laughter or physical closeness, appear to strengthen connections. Observation 3. Being near Daniel increases heart rate and body temperature. Possible side effect of prolonged exposure. Further study required. She didn't realize it yet, but something was changing. The experiment was no longer just about studying human love. It was becoming personal. Jealousy, a new emotion. One evening, Lara and Daniel went to a small gathering with his colleagues. Everything was normal, until she noticed Daniel talking to another woman. Something unfamiliar twisted inside her. She did not like seeing him with someone else. She tried to rationalize it. Daniel was free to speak to anyone he wished. Yet, she felt uncomfortable. She clenched her fists, trying to suppress the strange feeling. What is this? She muttered. A man beside her chuckled. You look jealous. She turned to him sharply. Jealous. He smirked. Yeah. You don't like seeing him with someone else, do you? Jealousy. She had read about it in human psychology studies. It was an irrational emotion tied to possessiveness. I should not be feeling this. And yet she was. Alien heart, human emotions. Lara sat in her dimly lit apartment, staring at the holographic research logs floating before her. Her fingers hovered over the controls, yet she couldn't bring herself to type. She had always been efficient, recording every observation with precision. But now, for the first time, she hesitated. Her latest entry was incomplete. Observation 4. Exposure to human bonding rituals has resulted in unexpected. Unexpected what? She sighed, leaning back. Her mind replayed the scene from earlier that night. Daniel talking to that woman, laughing in the way he always did when he was comfortable. Lara should not have cared. It was irrelevant to her research. And yet, when she saw him with someone else, A strange heat had flared in her chest. The man at the gathering had called it jealousy. She was aware of the concept. It was an irrational, possessive emotion, one that should have no place in her mind. Yet it had been there. And it wasn't going away. A battle between logic and feeling. The next morning, Celera did what she always did when faced with uncertainty. She analyzed. She accessed medical scans of her own body, checking for any irregularities. Her heart rate had been slightly elevated the previous night, her neural activity spiking in a pattern she had never recorded before. She compared it to human neurological scans associated with strong emotions. It was a match. Her body was responding to emotional stimuli in ways she had never experienced before. Was this the result of prolonged human interaction? Or something worse? Was she changing? She did not like questions without answers. And so she needed to test her theory. An unorthodox experiment. Later that day, she found herself outside Daniel's quarters, her hands clenched into fists as she stood at his door, debating whether or not to knock. This was not how she conducted research. She preferred controlled environments, predictable outcomes, but nothing about this experiment was controlled anymore. Before she could overthink it, the door slid open. Daniel, dressed in a casual t-shirt and cargo pants, blinked in surprise. "Celera, I require your assistance," she said, pushing past him into the room. Daniel sighed, shutting the door. "You really need to work on asking instead of demanding." Celera turned to him, expression unreadable. "I believe I am experiencing emotions." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, no kidding." She narrowed her eyes. "You knew." He smirked. "Celera, I've seen you react to things differently over the past few weeks. You laugh at my jokes sometimes, even if you don't realize it. You frown when you're frustrated. And last night, I saw your expression when I was talking to that woman." Celera stiffened. It was irrelevant. Daniel chuckled. "Was it?" She hesitated. "I do not know." That admission felt more foreign than any of the emotions she was experiencing. Daniel studied her for a moment before sitting on the couch. "All right, tell me what you're feeling." Celera hesitated. She was used to processing data, not emotions. But Daniel was part of this experiment. If anyone could help her understand, it was him. She sat across from him, folding her hands in her lap. "When I saw you interacting with another female, I felt an unfamiliar sensation. Tightness in my chest, a spike in my heart rate, and an urge to remove her from your presence." Daniel blinked, then grinned. "Celera, you were jealous." She frowned. "I do not wish to be jealous." He chuckled. "That's not how it works. Emotions aren't something you control like a machine. They just happen." "That is highly inefficient," she muttered. Daniel laughed, shaking his head. "Welcome to being human." She stared at him. "But I am not human." Daniel's smile faded slightly. "No, but you're feeling things like one." She processed this in silence. If her emotions were growing stronger, what did that mean? Would she continue to change? Was this temporary or permanent? And most importantly, did she want it to stop? The fear of losing control. Over the next few days, Celera found herself reacting to things in ways she never had before. She enjoyed the sound of Daniel's laughter. She felt warmth when he touched her arm absent-mindedly. She noticed how her mood shifted depending on whether he was near or far. She was attached. It was a dangerous realization. The Zithran High Council had warned about the risks of emotional contamination. Emotions led to chaos. They made people weak. And yet, Celera did not feel weaker. She felt more alive than she ever had before. One evening, as she and Daniel walked through a park, she finally voiced her concern. "What if this is not reversible?" Daniel glanced at her. "Do you want it to be?" She hesitated. "I do not know." He stopped walking and faced her. "Celera, emotions aren't a sickness. They're not something to fix. They're just part of life." She looked away. Zithrans believe emotions are dangerous. Daniel sighed. Maybe for them. But you're already different from them. You're not just observing anymore. You're feeling. You're living. She stared at him. Is that what love is? Living? Daniel smiled softly. Yeah, love isn't just about one thing. It's about experiencing life with someone, about sharing moments, about wanting to be with someone no matter what. Silara's chest tightened again, but this time she did not resist it. Was this love? Cliffhanger for Part 4. As they stood there, a sudden transmission came through Silara's communicator. A cold, familiar voice spoke. Silara of Zithra, you have violated interspecies protocol. Return immediately, or face exile. Her heart pounded. The High Council had found out. And now, she had to make a choice. The forbidden choice. Silara stood frozen, the cold voice of the High Council echoing through her communicator. Silara of Zithra, you have violated interspecies protocol. Return immediately, or face exile. The words sent a chill through her, colder than the deep vacuum of space. Exile. The ultimate punishment for a Zithran. To be stripped of her identity, her people, her very existence, cut off forever. Daniel noticed her rigid posture. Silara, what's wrong? She turned to him, her usually calm expression flickering with something close to fear. They know. Who? The High Council. She swallowed. They have given me an order. Return, or be cast out. Daniel's jaw tightened. And what happens if you go back? She hesitated. They will. Extract all emotional contamination from my mind. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. You mean erase everything you felt? She nodded. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his voice was low, firm. That's not happening. A race against time. Silara's mind raced. She had expected consequences, but not this quickly. The council had likely been monitoring her research, waiting for signs of deviation. Now, they had seen enough. She had two options. Return to Zithra, obey orders, and have her emotions purged. She would be logical once more, efficient. Stay on Earth, embrace what she was becoming, and lose everything she had ever known. There was no logical answer. For the first time in her life, she could not calculate a correct outcome. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her out of her thoughts. We need to go. If they've sent a warning, that means they're already close. She didn't resist as he led her away. She should have, but she didn't. She had made her decision the moment she heard the council's voice. She didn't want to lose her emotions. She didn't want to lose Daniel. But did she have the strength to fight against her own people? A desperate escape. They hurried to Daniel's ship, a sleek, heavily modified star cruiser docked at the edge of the city. As they boarded, Silara's hands trembled slightly. Another unfamiliar reaction. Daniel powered up the controls. I'm taking you somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe from them, she said quietly. He glanced at her. Then we make one. The engines roared to life, and the ship shot into the night sky. Silara watched as Earth shrank below them, a blue marble in the darkness. Then the warning signal blared. Daniel cursed. They're already here. Silara turned to the radar. 2 Zithran warships had appeared from hyperspace. They were sleek, obsidian black, moving with the precision of a species that valued efficiency above all else. A transmission came through. Silara, surrender. You belong with your people. She closed her eyes. The logical part of her mind screamed at her to obey, to return, to fix what had gone wrong inside her. But another part, the new part, refused. She looked at Daniel. His eyes burned with defiance, with emotion. For the first time, she understood why humans fought for love. She turned back to the communicator. No, she said firmly. The chase. The Zithran warships locked onto them, opening fire. Daniel jerked the controls, narrowly dodging the energy blasts. Hold on, he shouted. The ship twisted through the stars, diving between asteroids. Lara had been in space battles before, but this time was different. This time, she had something to lose. Daniel's hands moved instinctively over the controls, his piloting skills unmatched. But the Zithrans were relentless. They pursued with cold efficiency, never missing a shot. A direct hit rocked the ship. Lara stumbled, catching herself against the console. "They won't stop," she said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then we make them." He flipped a switch, activating the ship's hidden weapons. Plasma turrets emerged, firing back. The blast struck one of the warships, but barely dented its shields. Lara knew the truth. The Zithrans weren't trying to kill them. They were trying to disable the ship. They wanted her alive. She had to stop this. The ultimate choice. She reached for the controls, inputting a series of complex calculations. Daniel glanced at her. "What are you doing?" "I am ending this." A new set of coordinates flashed on the screen. A nearby solar flare, unpredictable and deadly. If they flew into it, the Zithrans wouldn't dare follow. "But we might not survive," Daniel pointed out. Lara looked at him. "You once told me love is about experiencing life together. I wish to do that, but I will not return to my people. If I must die, I will die free." Daniel's expression hardened. Then he nodded. "Then let's live." He pushed the throttle to maximum. The ship shot forward, straight into the chaos of the solar storm. The Zithrans hesitated. Then, as expected, they veered off. They wouldn't risk the instability of the flare. Lara watched as the warships disappeared from the radar. They were free. A new beginning. Hours later, as the ship drifted in a quiet sector of space, Lara sat beside Daniel in the cockpit. She stared at the stars, her mind unusually quiet. "I can never go back," she murmured. Daniel nodded. "But you don't have to be alone." She looked at him. "No, I do not." A strange warmth filled her chest. Not fear, not confusion. Something else. She reached out, hesitating before placing her hand over his. Daniel's fingers curled around hers, solid and reassuring. Her people had told her emotions were dangerous. But at this moment, feeling his touch, hearing his steady breathing beside her, she realized something. Emotions weren't a weakness. They were power, and she would never give them up again. Love against the universe. The ship floated in the quiet void of space, far from the reach of the Zithran High Council. Lara stood near the viewport, staring at the stars. She had spent her entire life seeing them as nothing more than points of data, celestial bodies to be studied. Now, they felt different. They felt alive. She had made her choice. She had chosen emotions. She had chosen him. But as she listened to the crackling signal coming through the ship's communicator, she realized something chilling. She was not the only one who had changed. The message that changed everything. The transmission came through distorted at first, but the voice was clear. "Lara, this is not over. You are not the only one who has changed. Others have begun to question. You have started something beyond your control." Lara's breath caught. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "I am Kyrex, and I am like you." Daniel, sitting at the controls, narrowed his eyes. "A Zithran. Yes, but no longer one of them." Lara's mind spun. Kyrex was a name she recognized, an elite scientist, once loyal to the High Council. If he was questioning, it meant something bigger was happening. She leaned forward. "How did you find me?" "You are not as hidden as you believe. The Council watches, but not all of us obey anymore. You are proof that what we were taught is a lie." Daniel folded his arms. "And what do you want?" "To warn you." A chill ran down Lara's spine. "Warn me of what?" "The Council is afraid of you, Lara. They are afraid of what you have become, and they have made their decision. If they cannot erase your emotions, they will erase you. The Council's ultimate decision." Lara had expected pursuit. She had expected them to try to bring her back. But extermination. Daniel muttered a curse under his breath. So they've decided she's too dangerous to exist. Huh. Kyrex's voice was heavy. They believe you are a contagion, an infection of the mind, and they will not stop until you are eliminated. Silara clenched her fists. Her people had always suppressed emotions, believing them to be a weakness. But now, they saw them as a threat. She took a slow breath. Kyrex, if you truly believe emotions are not a disease, why have you not left? Silence. Then, because I am not ready. But others, they are watching. And some are beginning to feel. Silara's pulse quickened. She had thought she was the only one. But if others were questioning, if emotions were spreading, this was bigger than her. Daniel leaned forward. So what do we do? Run? Silara shook her head. No, we fight. Rising resistance. The Zithran fleet was already on the move. She felt it, even before Kyrex confirmed it. The council never acted without certainty. If they had decided she was to be erased, they would be thorough. She turned to Daniel. If we hide, they will find us eventually. But if we expose them, if we show others the truth. Daniel caught on immediately. They lose control. Tilara nodded. We need to send a signal. To all Zithrans, let them see what emotions really are. Kyrex hesitated. That is dangerous. More dangerous than doing nothing. A long silence. Then, I will help you. Daniel grinned. Well, looks like we've got an inside man. Silara felt something stir in her chest. Hope. She turned back to the ship's controls, her fingers hovering over the comm system. This was it. A moment that would change everything. For herself. For Daniel. For the entire Zithran species. She activated the transmission and sent a message that could shake the entire galaxy. The Council strikes back. They didn't have to wait long for a response. Within hours, the Zithran fleet arrived. They came in silence, their warships cutting through space like shadows. The Council did not negotiate. They did not warn twice. They fired without hesitation. The first blast rocked Daniel's ship, sending sparks through the control panels. Silara grabbed the edge of the console, her pulse racing. They're not holding back, Daniel muttered. Because they cannot afford to, Silara said. She knew the truth. The Council was terrified. If emotions spread, they lost everything. Their perfect, logical society would collapse. Which meant they would rather burn everything down than let her message take root. Daniel gritted his teeth. All right, time to make them regret that. He yanked the controls, sending the ship spiraling toward the nearest warship. Not in surrender, but in attack. Silara quickly rerouted the ship's power to shields. We cannot win this fight alone. We don't need to, Daniel said. He pointed to the radar. Silara gasped. Ships were appearing from hyperspace, but they weren't Council warships. They were Zithrans, scientists, pilots, defectors, those who had heard her message. And they were choosing emotions. They were choosing freedom. The battle erupted in full force. The Council had more firepower, but the rebels had conviction. They fought for something, not just orders. Silara's heart pounded. For the first time, she truly believed. Her people could change. Love wins against logic. The battle was fierce. The rebels fought with desperation, but the Council's forces were too well-trained, too efficient. Then, Silara made a choice. She turned to Daniel. Take the ship toward their command vessel. He stared at her. That's suicide. She looked him in the eyes. Trust me. Something passed between them. Understanding. Something deeper than words. Daniel nodded. All right. Let's do something crazy. They shot forward, dodging fire, heading straight for the largest warship. Silara activated the communicator. To all Zithrans aboard the command vessel, hear me. You have been taught that emotions are weakness, but they are not. They are power. They are what make us alive. She didn't know if it would work. Then she heard it. One by one, The enemy ships stopped firing. The command vessel hesitated. Their pilots hesitated. Doubt. A crack in their logic. And in that moment, the battle was won. The aftermath. The council fell, not through war, but through choice. Their people had chosen to feel, to live. Celera stood beside Daniel, watching as the council's ships retreated. The stars were quiet again, but nothing would ever be the same. She turned to him. "It is over." He smiled. "No, it's just beginning." She hesitated. Then, slowly, she reached out, her fingers brushing against his. For the first time, she did not question the feeling inside her. She embraced it. And in that moment, she understood. This was love. This was freedom. This was life. The battle for love. The stars had not changed, but the universe had. Celera stood on the bridge of Daniel's ship, watching the wreckage of the battle drift through space. The Zithran High Council had fallen, their iron grip shattered by a single undeniable truth. Emotions were not a disease. They were not weakness. They were evolution. But as she stood there, watching the distant glow of retreating warships, she felt something cold seep into her thoughts. This wasn't over. And the real enemy had yet to reveal themselves. A warning from the shadows. The transmission came through just as Daniel was checking damage reports. A distorted voice, deep and unrecognizable. "You have made a mistake, Celera." Daniel and Celera exchanged a sharp glance. The ship's communication logs confirmed it. The signal was coming from deep space, from a location no known Zithran or human fleet had registered. Celera activated the comms. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, chillingly calm. "Someone who understands what you do not." Daniel folded his arms. "Great. Another cryptic alien threat. We haven't had enough of those lately." The voice ignored him. "You think you have won, but you have only begun a war you cannot comprehend. Do you believe the Council was the true power behind Zithra? Do you truly believe emotions are the final step of evolution?" Celera's pulse quickened. "You are Zithran. I am more than that. I am what you should have been." The screen flickered, and for the briefest moment, an image appeared. A figure, humanoid but different. Taller, sharper, eyes like burning gold. And then the transmission cut off. A silence settled over the ship. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "Well, that's not terrifying at all." Celera exhaled slowly. That was not the High Council. That was something else. Daniel sat on the console. "So, what now? We just won a rebellion. You really think there's something worse waiting for us?" Celera stared at the blank screen. Yes, and she was right. The hidden enemy. In the days that followed, Celera and Daniel gathered what was left of the rebellion. Many Zithrans who had resisted the High Council's rule were now in chaos, some eager to embrace emotions, others lost without their former structure. And then the disappearances began. First, a single ship vanished from the edge of the system, then another. No distress calls, no wreckage, just gone. Celera stood over the star map, tracing the pattern. "This is not random." Daniel frowned. "You think someone's taking them?" She nodded. "And I think I know who." He exhaled. "Let me guess. The creepy golden-eyed guy." She tapped the map. "They are targeting only the ones who have chosen emotions. They are taking us." Daniel clenched his fists. Why? What the hell do they want? A deep, unsettling thought settled into Celera's mind. They want to control evolution, the origins of a hidden power. The answer came from Kyrex, the Zithran scientist who had warned her before. He arrived in secret, his ship barely functioning, his expression grim. "You were right," he said without greeting. "The Council was never the true power of Zithra. They were merely managers." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Managers for who?" Kyrex hesitated. Then he spoke a name Celera had never heard before. The architects. Silence. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That sounds dramatic. Kyrex wasn't smiling. It should. They are the ones who designed Zithran society. Silara's breath caught. Designed. Kyrex nodded. The High Council did not erase emotions because they chose to. They were programmed to. The architects built our civilization, shaped our biology, ensured that emotions never returned. Daniel shook his head. Wait, are you telling me the entire Zithran race was engineered? Yes, Kyrex said darkly. And now that emotions have resurfaced, the architects are coming to correct the mistake. A war beyond the council. A deep dread settled over Silara. The battle with the council had been difficult enough. But this was something else entirely. She turned to Daniel. We need to warn the others. But Kyrex's expression turned grim. There is no time. The architects do not warn. Daniel stiffened. Then what do they do? Kyrex's voice was barely above a whisper. They erase. And then the alarms blared. Silara turned sharply to the control panel. Ships had appeared out of nowhere. Massive, silent, unfamiliar. Not Zithran. Not human. Something older. Something worse. The architects. Silara whispered. And they had arrived. The first strike. There was no declaration of war. The first shot ripped through space before anyone could react. One of the rebel ships near them disintegrated in an instant. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just gone. Like it had never existed at all. Daniel cursed, slamming the controls. We need to move. Now. Silara was already activating the ship's defenses, but a sickening thought filled her mind. This was not a war they could win with weapons, because the architects had built everything. The ships, the technology, the systems the Zithrans relied on. And now, they were unbuilding it. Piece by piece. The escape and a desperate plan. Silara's fingers flew over the console. We cannot fight them conventionally. We must retreat. Daniel gritted his teeth. Not a fan of running, but considering they just erased a ship with one shot. Yeah, I'm with you. Their ship shot forward, weaving through the chaos. The architects moved with eerie precision, not chasing, but cutting off escape routes. But they had not calculated one thing. Silara had changed. She was no longer just a Zithran scientist. She had evolved. She activated a new set of coordinates, a place no Zithran would have dared enter before, a place beyond the architect's reach. Daniel glanced at the display. That's inside the Maelstrom Nebula. Are you insane? She looked at him. I am feeling. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he grinned. All right, let's see where this crazy new emotion thing takes us. With a final burst of speed, they plunged into the nebula. The architects did not follow. Not yet. But Silara knew the truth. They would never stop. This was no longer about rebellion, no longer about love. This was about survival. And if the architects wanted to erase everything emotions had built, then she would show them just how powerful emotions could be. Love wins. Final. The ship trembled as it entered the Maelstrom Nebula, a chaotic storm of swirling gas and electromagnetic interference. Light bent in unnatural ways, and space itself seemed to ripple. Daniel gripped the controls, struggling to navigate through the unpredictable currents of the nebula. You sure this is a good idea? He shouted over the alarm signals flashing across the dashboard. Silara stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the swirling void outside. The architects will not follow us here. Their technology is built on precision. The maelstrom is chaos. Daniel exhaled. Great. We're hiding in an intergalactic blender. Perfect plan. But Silara wasn't listening. Her mind was racing. The architects had spoken to her before she fled. You are not the first. What did that mean? Were there others? Had there been others before her? She turned to Kyrex, who sat at the co-pilot station, analyzing data. You knew about them, she said. About the architects. What else do you know? Kyrex hesitated. Only what I was never meant to find. The architects didn't just erase emotions from our species. They erased history. Every time a Zithran developed emotional awareness, they were removed. Daniel's expression darkened. You mean killed? Kyrex nodded grimly. And not just them. Anyone they touched. The architects believe emotions spread like a virus. That's why they cannot allow you to live, Silara. Silara clenched her fists. Then we make them see they are wrong. Daniel shook his head. How? They can erase people from existence with a thought. She turned to him, her golden eyes burning with resolve. Then we show them that love cannot be erased. A message to the galaxy. Silara activated the ship's long-range communication systems. Even through the nebula's interference, she could send a message, one that would reach everyone. Daniel frowned. Who are you calling? Everyone, she said simply. She took a deep breath, then began. To all beings who can hear this message, I am Silara of Zithra. I was once like you, a creature of logic, of cold calculation. But I have changed, not by force, not by accident, but by choice. I have learned that emotions are not a weakness. They are not a disease. They are power. She hesitated, then continued, her voice stronger. The architects wish to erase us because they fear that power. They believe love is a threat. And perhaps they are right. Because love is the only force in the universe stronger than them. Love is what makes us fight. Love is what makes us alive. She looked at Daniel, and for the first time, she let herself feel everything that had been growing inside her. The connection, the trust, the love. She smiled softly. And love is why we will not run anymore. She ended the transmission. Silence filled the cockpit. Then Daniel grinned. I hope you know what you just did. She nodded. I started a war. The final confrontation. The architects did not wait long to respond. Within hours, their ships appeared at the edge of the nebula. Dozens of them, each one a floating monolith of black metal, their forms sleek and perfect. They did not fire immediately. Instead, they sent a final message. You could have lived, Silara. Now, you will be unmade. Silara stepped forward. Then come and try. The first blast was blinding. The nebula lit up as a shockwave tore through space. But something happened the architects did not expect. Ships appeared, not theirs, but rebel Zithrans. And not just them. Human vessels, smugglers, refugees, even fleets from other species who had received Silara's message. They had heard her words, and they had answered. Daniel whooped. Looks like you made some friends. Silara's heart pounded. They were not alone. And now, the battle truly began. The war for the future. The void of space erupted in chaos. Fighters clashed, energy beams slicing through the darkness. The architects moved with terrifying efficiency, their ships phasing in and out of reality, erasing entire squadrons. But the rebels did not falter. For every ship lost, more joined the fight. The architects fought like machines, like gods. But the rebels fought like people. They fought with emotion, with fire, with love. And something incredible happened. The architects hesitated. For the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy that did not fear them, that believed in something greater than themselves. And it shook them. Silara seized the moment. Daniel, take us to their flagship. He blinked. You want to go there? Yes, if we defeat the architects here, it will be over. Daniel gritted his teeth. Well, if we die, at least it's your fault. The ship shot forward, dodging through the chaos. And then, they were inside, the heart of the enemy. The interior of the architect's ship was impossibly vast. Silara and Daniel stepped onto a platform of glowing obsidian, surrounded by towering figures, tall, elegant, inhuman. The leader stood before them, golden eyes unreadable. "You do not belong here," he said simply. Silara lifted her chin. "Neither do you." The architect tilted his head. "We made you. We shaped your kind. You exist because we allowed it." She took a step forward. "And now we exist without you." The architect studied her. "You believe your emotions make you strong, but they will destroy you. Love is chaos." Silara smiled. "Love is creation." She reached for Daniel's hand. He grasped hers without hesitation, and something happened that no one expected. The architect flinched. For the first time, he felt. A ripple of energy passed through the room, and the other architects staggered. Their perfect forms flickered, their golden eyes dimming. Silara's breath caught. They were not gods. They were broken. Daniel squeezed her hand. "I think they just learned what fear feels like." The architect looked at her, something like uncertainty flickering in his gaze. "You have changed too much," he said. "We can no longer erase you." Silara's heart pounded. They had won, not by fighting, but by showing the architects the one thing they had never understood. Emotion was not weakness. Emotion was evolution. Epilogue. The dawn of a new era. The architects did not surrender. They simply left, vanishing into the void, their warships dissolving into nothingness. They were not defeated, but they had lost. Silara and Daniel stood together, watching the stars. The universe felt different. Daniel smirked. "So what now?" Silara turned to him, her golden eyes full of warmth. "Now, we live." She hesitated, then spoke the words she had once never understood. "I love you, Daniel." His breath hitched. Then he smiled. "Took you long enough." He kissed her, and for the first time, Silara felt what it truly meant to be alive. Not as a Zithran, not as a scientist, but as someone who loved. And the universe would never be the same again. Final line. Far away, in the void of deep space, the architects watched. And for the first time in their existence, they felt fear,